Alrighty guys, that video you just saw was shot with the Sandmarc ND polarizer filters on the Mavic 2 Pro. We're going to talk about why these filters are important and then how to use them. The video coming up. Now in this video, I used the Sandmarc Pro Plus filter. It's a 6-pack, which is great because it has a polarizer, which you can just put on in normal conditions when you're not gonna wanna make the image any darker. If you're just shooting normal, the polarizer will really make the colors pop out, as I'll explain in this video. And then you have ND4 polarizer all the way up to ND64 polarizer. So it gives you those increments 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And it's an ND filter and a polarizer combined in all of those. So 5 of these filters are ND filters with a polarizer combined. And then you can see in the upper right-hand corner there, that one is just a polarizer. And they're pretty easy to attach. I use the Mavic 2 Pro, so I just took off the front end filter on my Mavic 2 Pro, then just attach the Sandmarc, just put it in the way you would the Mavic 2 Pro. If you haven't done it before, you just gotta kind of press in and then turn and it'll come off and vice versa. So the reason I use these filters was because I'm in Vermont, the fall foliage is really coming out and all the leaves are changing, and I really want to emphasize that. Normally I like that desaturated cinematic look. However, because it's the fall season and all the trees are changing colors, I really wanted to bring out the colors in the trees. So give me your focus here. You're in for a treat because I went to a lot of scenic, just amazingly beautiful locations. All right, so this first one was on this little farm right here. And as you can see, I just put the drone up in the air. Didn't put on any filter, just the normal Mavic 2 Pro right out of the box the way it is. All right, so when I first started shooting, I just go -2 with my contrast. Just something I like to do, and it kind of has a desaturated look. And I'm just shooting normal. So as you can see, none of the colors are really popping out, and it hasn't rained that much in Vermont this year. So that's why the colors are a little bit dull for the fall season. All right, they're not really popping out. So these polarizer filters are really gonna help out a lot with that. So just shooting normal, you can see it looks good, it looks nice, but it's not really the look we're going for. So we're gonna have to land the drone, and the sun is also going down, so it's gonna be a little more cinematic, but we're gonna add that filter on. If you want the colors to really pop out, there are really 3 ways you can do that, which I'm gonna show you in this video, which is the middle icon, the little circle with a line through it. That's your contrast. Raise that up to 0, +1, maybe +2 if you really want to, although to me it looks a little artificial. And then on the right side, that little square with the shade, that's your saturation. So you could bump that up as well. So first let's add a filter, and then let's bump up our saturation and see how that looks. All right, so what I did was I raised my contrast from -2, how I normally shoot, all the way up to 0. Now, as you raise your contrast, the saturation is gonna increase as well. So the more contrast you have, the more saturation, the more vivid tones, and the more the leaves are gonna pop out. All right, so the colors are gonna be a lot more vivid. All right, as you can see, just shooting 0, 0, 0 for my sharpness, my contrast, and my saturation. So it looks nice, but this isn't the final image. So we're just making these little adjustments. Before we get into using all these filters and why I chose a polarizer, first I want to mention that an ND filter alone by itself, which most of these filters are ND filters, we got the one that's a polarizer, but the ND filters, the ND part of it, really allows you, it makes the image darker, it doesn't change the color tone, and it allows you to give you that really smooth footage. So if I shoot at 24 frames per second, I can use 1/50th of a second shutter speed to give me that nice Hollywood smooth cinematic look. If I didn't use the ND filter, I'd have to use a higher shutter speed, a faster shutter speed, and that would make my image look a little more choppy or not as smooth, especially with clouds, with water, and things like this. All right, so what I did was I attached an ND polarizer, and I put this on, and as you can see, everything's popping out more. Still have the settings the same, but the image just looks a lot better. It just, everything pops out, and to me, it really fits the scene that I'm shooting. All right, if it didn't have all these colors, maybe it wouldn't fit quite right, but with these colors, it really makes it pop out, and that's the look that I'm going for. Now, the next step is to bring my saturation up. So I brought my saturation up to +2, and it looks almost, you know, a little fake. You could tell something's going on, but now it looks like the fall colors are really popping out, and it's an excellent fall season. and looks totally different from the initial shot. So you can see the two shots, how we started with no filter on, and you can see with the filter, the ND polarizer filter, the polarizer really makes things pop out. And you can see the huge difference from just shooting normal. You may be asking yourself, okay, Brett, why don't you do this in post-production? Well, one, it saves you a lot of time. I don't have to do any work now in post-production. It's good right out of camera. And number two, drones have small sensors, okay? It's not like a normal DSLR full frame or crop sensor. Now, if you're using an Inspire 2, it might be a little different, but with anything from the Mavic 2 on down or the Phantom 4 on down, you're not gonna be able to really manipulate those colors in post because it's gonna degrade the image. So you're gonna get some artifacting, and we don't really wanna degrade the image. We wanna get the optimized resolution, sharpness without any degradation to the image. When you work in post, a lot of times you're gonna just degrade the image. Now, if you shoot in a flat profile, you could do that. However, it's really hard to get the colors really accurate in the way you want. So I find these polarized filters, after shooting with them for a few days, work really well, especially with these fall colors. And I imagine any vibrant color, they're really gonna make stuff pop out. So if this is the kind of look you want, then I would highly recommend these filters because it's gonna save you a ton of time, so you won't have to do any work in post-production, and you're gonna be able to get the look you want without degrading the image. All right, I went to a second location where I got to shoot this beautiful lake, a little different look. And as you can see, all those pine trees, the houses, everything is popping out. And the lake doesn't kind of look like a lake. It looks more like an ocean because the polarizer really changes those colors. And I got there really early, and you can see the sun hasn't risen yet, but even in condition like this where it's really low light, you get that little extra color in the clouds, and it makes all the difference in the image. It adds a nice little accent to the image with the trees to the right, and it's a really nice look. The polarizer will give you that. If I didn't have the polarizer on, it would be nice, but as you can see in the mountains, you can see those fall colors with the sun rising, the clouds, and it's very subtle, but it's really nice. By the way, I hope you enjoyed this video. It was below freezing. It was 28 degrees when I first arrived at this location and this lake. Anything to get the shot, but it was definitely worth it. And I'm also happy to say that my Mavic 2 Pro had no problem, even in the cold weather. One small tip, I know I'm not talking about shooting in the cold weather for this video, but I will add a little professional tip. If you do shoot in cold weather, make sure you heat the battery. What I did was I brought some hand warmers to heat my batteries, so I wouldn't have any problem with my drone. You don't want to fly your drone with cold batteries. It could damage the battery, or it could malfunction and your drone could crash. So make sure you heat your batteries before taking off in freezing conditions, although you really got to be careful because it is risky flying in conditions like this, but it was worth it to make this video. Now, one thing that really affects which filter you're gonna use is the time of day that you shoot, okay? So if you shoot more during the middle of the day, you're gonna wanna use a higher ND number, so an ND 32 or an ND 64. In the farm shot, I just used a polarizer. Same thing with that lake, I just used a polarizer. However, this next location, I went to the state capitol in Vermont, and as you can see, looks really great, but it wasn't during sunrise or sunset. It's more closer, I don't know, it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So what I did was I put an ND16 polarizer, and that really made the image, made it darker, but also made those leaves pop out. So I definitely needed that ND16 polarizer so I get that nice smooth footage and could shoot wide open. Wide open means something like f2.8 or f4.0. So you get that nice little shallow depth of field. My focus was on the dome. You can see that gold dome right there. I really wanted that in focus, and everything else seemed to be in focus, obviously, because it's a wide shot. But as the closer I got, everything in the background got a little more blurry. Got some really cool shots with it, so I think it looked good. And as you can see, that mountain right there, Camel's Hump, looks great in the distance behind all these beautiful colored trees. And that's because the polarizer really makes the colors pop out. So that's really nice. And this last location, I went to this small little lake here, and I drove by and I saw this little island and I really liked it. And as you can see going around, it just really looks nice, especially with the hills and all the different colors. So I wanted to go high enough so I could just isolate that island. So one shooting tip I like to do if you're shooting, I try to think, what is the money shot, or what's the main thing I'm trying to focus on? So for me, it was this island, okay? It wasn't just all the trees and the colors. Those are nice, it's a nice background, but it was really the island. So I shot with a shallow depth of field at f2.8 to f4.0. So I had to use an ND16 or even an ND32 to get this really nice shot. Even though the sun was going down, I wanted to shoot with a low f-stop number. So this is the image I got. And one last tip here, if you're in an ocean or a lake where the water is moving, but you want it to be more smooth and glass-like, you have to use an ND, I would say, at least 16, but probably a 32 or 64, and then lower your shutter down to at least 1 second. I would say in 2 seconds to 4 seconds. However, if you go to 4 seconds, like this day, I couldn't go to 4 seconds because when I put the shutter at 4 seconds, the image was blurry because there was too much wind. So if there's no wind, you can shoot with the Mavic 2 Pro. I think up to about 4 seconds. I know it goes a little more than that, but I found 2 to 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds max. Anything longer than that, I get a little bit of blurriness in my shot. So that's just my personal experience using it. And then the ocean or the lake or the water, whatever you're shooting, will be nice and smooth and glass-like. So that's one little tip I have. So make sure you use that ND filter, comes in real handy, and put your aperture down to f2.8, f4, around there, and you'll really isolate that image, get that nice smooth look around it. And it's really something that looks great, I think. So in this image, all the things are coming together. You get the leaves and the colors popping out. You get the shallow depth of field, the isolation of that island. So you get that cinematic look. And then the water is nice, silky, and smooth. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you know someone that might enjoy it or benefit from it, please share it with them. And if you want more drone tutorials like this, subscribe to my channel. I'm Brick Aramello with BrickAramello.com, and I'll see you in the next video.